welcome to the latest edition of Get to the Chedda. Now, as you can see, I am joined once again by my co-host of all things action and fighting and violence, Mr. Malcolm Martin. How are you, Malcolm?
I'm great, Matt, and I can see we're both rocking the look for today's video. I thought I wouldn't shave for a while so we could get in the mood, get the ambience going for what we're going to discuss today.
I think we're half of that. The only thing we didn't wear was the denim, which was probably a problem. But for those of you who aren't aware yet, we are talking today about Chuck Norris's Invasion USA.
Chuck Norris. Invasion USA.
Now, we're going to... This is a Chuck Norris movie, the man of the me. Chuck is renowned for canon movies. Before this, he was coming off the back of, I believe, Code of Silence.
Fantastic film.
Which is considered a classic. He was coming back from Way of the Dragon and Code of Silence. And then we get to the canon group. Who were synonymous, I suppose, for putting together films very quickly and creating the action genre that we love. And then they made Invasion USA. So, where to start, really, Malcolm? Normally you come in with some amazing facts about canon or Chuck Norris.
Let's get historical perspective.
Yeah.
Chuck Norris is now revered. I mean, with the memes, with everything, but despite all that, he's revered. Even within the Expendables franchise, they gave him his own solo entrance.
They got a tank. Hey, who did that? Not me, I'm out.
They called him, even, it was like Stallone and Schwarzenegger were all bowing to him. He's made some great movies. I think for a man with limited acting ability, let's get that straight from the start. You look at his overall CV, there's a really solid body of work there. And there's a lot of enjoyable movies. Now, the reason you and I came up with Invasion USA, as you said, it came off the Code of Silence. But you and I were talking once, and we said how iconic, out of all Chuck Norris's films, the most iconic imagery is Invasion USA. The posters, the look, the denim, it was everywhere. And what it did, I think, in people's minds was cement what a great film this is, what a great guy Chuck Norris is. I still subscribe to the what a great guy Chuck Norris is. There's many of his films I can watch again, especially specific moments with incredible fight sequences. Code of Silence, you mentioned the barroom sequence when, if I want your opinion, I'll beat it out of you. And then you think, I've got to rewatch Invasion USA. You see the cover again, and let's be honest, Matt, you get excited. And the reason we chose this one is it's like the balloon pops the moment you start watching it. Yeah. And it's if you ask anyone for their, and you Google Chuck Norris for images, Missing in Action obviously comes up, Way of the Dragon comes up, but that's it. That is the thing. It's everywhere. And then you and I both rewatched the movie, and man, I was just so disappointed.
Well, as you know, I'm not the hugest of Chuck Norris fans. I like Chuck films. I mean, like I said, Code of Silence. I'm a big fan for Hero in the Terror, which in itself isn't an amazing movie, but it was actually pretty good. It was very different for Chuck. It was a murder mystery thing with a few kicks thrown in, as Chuck does. But I've always struggled with Chuck Norris. I think probably because he's always looked quite old. I mean, it doesn't age, but he just looks stuck in like his 60s. Got the beard going, he's always in denim, he doesn't say a lot. But I think that was probably down to acting ability, and he was probably being quite smart there. Going with the early days of Keanu Reeves movies, there used to be, the joke that the less Keanu Reeves speaks in a film, the better it is. And I think it's probably, Chuck probably subscribed to that somewhat. But yeah, I've always struggled with Chuck Norris films. So putting this on, Invasion USA is one of those films you remember bits. You don't remember the whole film. You remember bits. You remember the big finale at the end. You remember the shopping mall sequence, and then there's but you remember it being better than it was, or is, as the case may be. You go, oh yeah, they get invaded by Russians. Turns out it's not Russians. It's Cubans, possibly Mexican. They don't really explain where they come from, which is the big problem with this film.
What they did there, Matt, is canon. You mentioned about the way their history. We all know the great thing about canon films. You've got to love them. I mean, because Get to the Chedda is basically an homage to the way canon in particular made films. Yeah. And I think what they did there was they said to Joseph Zito, the director, don't worry about the budget. Go into wardrobe, pick whatever villains costumes you want from all the other movies we got. Just dress your extras in them. It doesn't matter what they came from. So I think they just went into wardrobe and goes, the guys are going to look great in this. And as you said, there's guys with headbands, there's guys with the leather gloves, there's Mexicans, there's Puerto Ricans, there's so-called Russians. And then there's just guys that look like they're from the Warriors or street punks from a Steven Seagal movie. It looks like they could look every wardrobe they could get and throw them into this movie to make the budget look bigger. And
their target, America. Their objective, control.
What disappoints me the most is there's a kernel of a good movie here in terms of the idea, because part of the idea of this movie is they use America's own values against it and tries to show sort of like the greed, and they set the Puerto Ricans against the police, the people. It never gels together. It never fully comes together in that sense. The idea that actually what Chuck might be fighting is the way that the Russian mastermind, played by Richard Lynch, tries to get America to turn on itself. That's a great idea, but that just gets left behind through utterly repetitive scenes of, as you said, all these extras in any costume they could get. It reminds me of the end of Blazing Saddles, Matt.
Well, yeah,
it was doing that as a comedy,
Saddles, where they're tearing through different movies. Yeah.
Yes.
So let's get to the film itself. The film opens up that strangely Chuck Norris doesn't have any billing on the film. It opens up with the Invasion USA thing, and then it cuts starring Richard Lynch. I've watched it twice recently, and I can't see Chuck Norris's name anywhere on the billing. It's really random. So anyways, so it starts as it means to go on, clearly. So the film opens up in just off the coast of America, some asylum-seeking Mexicans who are on a boat. I don't know why they're just not going across the border, but they're on a boat. And they see a police boat, and they're all like, oh no, we're going to get caught and sent back. And the police boat turns up. And on the boat is Richard Lynch in full police. At this point, we don't know he's the bad guy. So, and they go, welcome to America. Now, Richard Lynch's character is called Rostov, which is Russian. And we presume he's Russian. Again, we can't really tell. But his accent changes so many times throughout the movie. I don't know whether he's Russian, Cuban, or American. It's mainly American with a bit of Russian thrown in when he's angry, when he's complaining about them not getting Chuck Norris, but we'll get to that later. And the police on this boat, or his fake soldiers, rent a soldier, where he's got a whole bunch of them, shoot up this boat, killing everybody, man, woman, and child. So we know he's evil because they're all lying dead on the boat. The only thing is I don't know what they're actually killed with because there are no bullet holes anywhere. They shoot all these guns and there's not one single bullet hole in the boat. There's just nothing.
They actually missed the boat, Matt. Did you notice? They actually missed the boat. They're so accurate. They only hit the guy.
The people, and the bullets don't go through them. So they shoot up the boat, and there's one rather eager guy on the top of the boat with a Gatling gun shooting. They tell him to stop, and he just carries on and kind of smiles at them. And you're like, okay, I'm not going to shoot him for not doing what he was. I don't know. That was the first warning. This bloke who carries on, and there's sort of no real reason, he just smiles like he doesn't understand what's going on. I mean, maybe he was foreign and couldn't speak the language and was just an extra firing a gun. Anyway, so they go into the boat and they pull out some cocaine that they just happen to know because they have an informer on the boat who they promptly kill as well. And then they get cocaine, and then it cuts away from that and goes straight into the opening credits, and then cuts to Mr. Norris, chesty, double denim, and then on a swamp rat. in the middle of nowhere,
This
just
is
going through the marshes.
We see these wonderful shots of them, the wind blowing back his mullet, his lovely beard, and the denim waistcoat. And when I said to you before we started recording, the thing that really amazed me is Joseph Zito is quite a reliable B-movie go-to man to get something finished. Yet this looks like it's edited by Edward Scissorhands. I mean, you get Chuck, as you rightly said, going through the Everglades. We set him up on the hoverboard, and then immediately it cuts. It's night, and that FBI guy, who's an absolute, like, we set up the FBI as idiots already, is in his lodge. So we go from Chuck just going through the Everglades to night. It's a beautiful day. Then we go to night, and the FBI guy, in what we guess and we're led to believe, is Chuck's lodge. You know,
the interesting thing about that guy on the boat is it reminded me, I don't know if you've seen it, the Muppet movie, the original Muppet movie. It starts off with Kermit playing in the marshland, and then Dom DeLuise comes by in a boat.
Hello! This is a serious call for help!
Yeah?
Someone help! You with the banjo. Can you help me? I have lost my sense of direction.
Have you tried Hare Krishna?
I just thought it looks like the Muppet movie. And it's a different kind of Muppet, obviously. This one's not actually somebody operating them. This is an actual Muppet. I mean, it's just so great. Then they're from the agency. They don't actually define whether it's FBI, CIA. It's the agency. And Chuck, of course, dismisses him out of hand and tells him to go away.
The name.
Then he meets up with his mate, his old boy mate, and you see them wrestling with a crocodile. Or alligator, probably, sorry. It's in the mouth. Yeah, it's probably an alligator. And they make some stupid joke about next time you can hold the mouth or something. You know, they put it in this cage for no apparent reason. They just put it in this very small cage by today's standards, which RSPCA probably wouldn't like. But anyway, so then this old boy fella, they go and see another guy outside his house shack thing, and they're making jokes about how he's not paid taxes for 40 years. Very un-American for an American, American movie.
He's a Native American.
He's not paying his taxes.
He's John Eagle, Matt. He's a Native American.
Is he? Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, John Eagle. So he probably is still waging war against the government. But again, it just shows the laziness of canon here. Is the fact that, like, let's make Chuck's friend, ethnic. John Eagle. So it does two things. It shows that Chuck is all embracing, but what does it also tell you? John Eagle's probably got about another 3 minutes to live in the movie. He might as well be the guy in the red outfit in Star Trek. It's that obvious that John Eagle is set up to show what a great, all-encompassing man Chuck's characters always are, and that this guy is not going to last much longer in the movie.
And then the Edward Scissorhands editing kicks in, and we go back to Richard Lynch, who's wandering around with this suitcase full of drugs and money now. I don't know where he got the money from, but there's money now. He wanders into the office of Billy Drago, who some may remember as the hitman in The Untouchables. Now, in his room, there is what I can only describe nicely as a lady of the night in a very ill-fitting red dress, sitting on the side of the desk with a butterfly knife. As you do. He's got 3 phones on the table. One's black, one's red, and one's white. And I'm like, what's this? Is this, the bat phone, the Green Hornet phone, and the one to the drug dealer? Anyway, so Richard Lynch shows him the stuff, and Billy Drago gets on the phone and goes, yeah, it's all good. And then for no apparent reason, Billy Drago kills, not Billy Drago, sorry. Richard Lynch kills everybody. He kills the hooker who's doing a bit of a line of the drugs just to test to make sure it's all right. Although, Billy Drago does the licking thing, so he knows that it's Colombian pure or whatever, or, how they do. So he shoots Billy Drago in the groin, who's like, on the side. He then throws her out the window. And then he just walks off. Just rolls off.
Matt, again, it's this shorthand that bugs me throughout the movie. It's that they're really sort of like piling on the fact that Rostov's a bad guy. He's also unethical in whoever he kills. They're really just saying to you very quickly, let's get it in his head. This is one nasty piece of work. And I mean, we get, again, to show what a nasty piece of work is, we finally obviously have to have Chuck involved, because he tells the agency guy, doesn't he? He doesn't care if it's Rostov, and here's Here's the exposition is the backstory is when he was with this agency, whoever it was, he had the chance to kill Rostov and they said no. And he's never forgiven them because when Chuck gets a guy, he kills a guy. That's the end of it. But the agency wouldn't let him. And now these problems are their own. And I'm thinking, if you look at that in the cold light of day, this is the ultimate all-American hero. I love my country, right or wrong. But because they pissed him off and told him that they couldn't kill Rostov the first time around, he can invade America this time. He can do what he wants because you didn't let me kill him. It just doesn't hold water. And then it comes to the great scene that you and I both noticed is we get the Rostov crew going to the Everglades because Rostov knows the only thing that will stop his invasion happening is Matt Hunter, Chuck Norris. And his little sidekick goes, but here's only one man. And Rostov looking at the camera, Richard Lynch probably thinking my career's over here, goes, we are talking about Hunter until he is dead. We will never make the invasion work. We must kill him now. He goes, but no, he said, everything is in place. All the plan. No. We will go to the Everglades. I know where he is. And we will just kill him first and everything will be okay. So we get this wonderful shot of 3 big hoverboards or, the Everglades swap. Yeah. They must have about 70 guys all piled on them, all with their different costumes. When they finally get to his house, there's about 12 of them. Did the others get lost and they fall overboard?
They fell off because it was too heavy.
What, were they eaten by alligators? Because you have this incredible footage from all angles, showing they're using the drones and everything. And then when the guys get there, there's about 12 of them. And what's going to happen? They're going to try and kill Chuck. They're going to kill Johnny Eagle. And then Chuck's finally going to say, do you know what? I've changed my mind. I'm going to go for Rostov.
See, now, let me just jump in here quickly. So when Rostov has his nightmare, which is because he's killed this guy's mates. He didn't bother to ask where he was, but he still ends up with this guy who's going to help him do the invasion, whatever. So he wakes up having a nightmare. He goes, oh, and here's this Russian dude coming. You've had the nightmare again. And he goes, yes. And they do the flashback. Now, the flashback, as you said, Chuck is angry because he wasn't allowed to kill him. Well, so the flashback begins is Richard Lynch is wandering around on his own in a bright blue suit, right? Supposedly hidden in bushes and stuff, except he's standing up. So how the guards on the house don't see him anyway, especially as he's got a rocket launcher in his arm. Anyway, so he's about to blow up what looks like
some sort of
government building or something. There's a party going on. Anyway, he's about to blow it all up. And then he's literally just about to take aim and he's taking all his time, getting it right. And then you just see this gun come into the side of his head like this. And it's Chuck standing there. And he goes, not today, Rostov.
Now, only one thing stands in their way.
And then he backs off. And that's the flashback. It's not, you don't ever see him get the order saying, don't kill him. He just takes the gun away from him. So, again, poor editing. Obviously couldn't avoid a voiceover in his ear, just put his finger in his ear and go, He doesn't argue, he just takes the gun away. Anyway, like I say, we cut to this point. Now, the key element of when they turn up at this house is that Chuck has a pet armadillo. It's a little baby armadillo that's been running around in all the sequences, and he keeps looking at it going, every 5 minutes. And now they blow the living daylights out of this house with their rent-a-plastic guns, which are all different. There's not, everybody hasn't got somebody looks like they've got one they pulled out of a Christmas cracker. Someone else has got a water pistol. The house explodes a million different ways, which is probably all the budget, which is why they had no decent script or editing. So they spent it all on the explosions. So they blow the living daylights out of this house, only for Chuck to dive out a side window, land on the grass by the side, and not get burned, not get singed, not have concert ring, none of this thing. Literally, the house is obliterated. You know this because a couple of planks of slightly burning wood fall down by the side of it. And the little armadillo runs off. And he goes, but his mate Johnny Eagle's now dead, so now he's upset. So now he's upset. So now we cut to, there's a few other bits happen that are completely pointless, we won't worry about them. Is that Chuck's in a bar, a roadside bar, and the guy from the agency finds him once again, even though mobile phones don't exist at this point. So how he's got a hold of him, we don't know, because his house has been blown up. So there's no phones. And if he sent him a letter, that would take quite a few weeks, I would imagine. So somehow he finds him, maybe a payphone, I don't know. He's sitting at the bar and Chuck says something unintelligible. Oh, that's it. It's something he mutters on, and then he says that I have two demands. One is I work alone, and I can't remember the other one. Oh, that's it. Yeah, you let me kill him this time. That's it. And he wanders off, leaving the agency guy to pay the bill. Now, a few more moments. We now cut to the invasion happening. Now, the invasion happens with all these renter-finder costume people. They roll up on some old Second World War military boats onto a random beach in the middle of Florida, I assume. No one sees these boats coming. They just suddenly appear. There's like about 10 of these boats, and they all run down the beach, and there's one couple on the beach who are, getting a bit friendly. And the Russian dude who's sort of the general in charge, he's standing at the side of the beach watching them like a real weirdo. And then they shoot this poor couple. But and if this is not ridiculous enough for you, they all run up the beach. And then there's about 100 lorries and vans, renter vans and all this stuff, just sitting at the side of the road.
Waiting for them. Yeah.
And I'm like, where did they all come from? And why didn't anybody notice them all? And there's just hundreds of these things. So they all pile on them and they all just drive down the road. No one notices. And this is how the film carries on. It just keeps going.
Well,
so,
we go to sort of like separate scenes, don't we?
Yeah.
We have the one where the Puerto Rican outdoor disco where despite all those cattle trucks and everything they're in, these guys turn up as policemen and shoot
two
them.
policemen wearing reflective shades. Looking like they're extras out of Chips, for those of you who are old enough to remember Chips.
And then the wonderful Christmas lit street from Home Alone where they all turn up. And one of the things that I noticed is, I don't know whether it was Joseph Zito or whoever, but they love their bazookas, don't they? Richard Lynch turns up
all the rocket launchers.
They've got his rocket launchers. And there's this wonderful Christmas scene, the pet dogs. I'm waiting for Jimmy Stewart from It's a Wonderful Life to come running out. And they blow the crap out of everything there. Once again, with a big Timmy mallet going, we're bad, we're nasty, look at what we're doing. And still, apart from the agency, Chuck, and the most annoying, irritating female reporter in the history.
We must talk about her in a minute.
Nobody else notices, or it's not making news. The whole point of this was to turn America against itself with these things happening. But we never see the news coverage. No one really knows. And then we also always cut to the agency guys going, you'll never guess what they've done again. We don't need to guess. It's so obvious. They've killed thousands of people. And he's going, I would be going, where the hell's Chuck? He told us he works alone. Why hasn't he stopped this? And then the reporter goes, I know about you guys. You can't fool me. I know what's going on. Well, tell your editor so he can get it on the news or in the paper or something. Because this is all just, and this is the thing that really bugs me, Matt. It's all just going on.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's rewind a little bit. So, yeah. So they start at the house. We know it's Christmas because they're playing Christmas tunes and they're putting lights on the Christmas tree. As you said, they bazooka the house. It's interesting because they see them coming to bazooka the house and they all run into the house, which then blows up. However, a neighbour then runs across the road and gets a little girl who just looks like she's asleep. No burn marks, no nothing. I mean, the house literally has gone. And she just runs out the house carrying a little girl because they can't kill little girls for some reason. Even though they did earlier at the beginning of the film on the boat, they murdered men, women, and children. Anyway, so yeah, so there's that. So now we have Melissa Prophet, who this role, there's no way to describe it other than it doesn't make sense. There is no reason for her there. There is no character arc. She is not the romantic interest. She is not Basil Exposition. She's just annoyed. And that's probably because of all the things I just said. That's why she's annoyed throughout. She just shouts abuse at all of them all the way through. She constantly refers to Chuck as the cowboy for no apparent reason other than the double denim. I mean, he's not wearing his Texas Walker Ranger hat thing. So And she just does nothing. She doesn't file a story. She takes lots of photos. She's always there. She's there in the.
I was going to say she's a real method actress, because every moment, just in case you don't know, even in the middle of a rant, she'll pick up, she'll snap a few shots.
She's even in the street party killing with the two coppers, the two fake coppers who she just happens to be at the back of the crowd taking pictures, and they don't think to shoot the person with the camera in case they get recognised. They shoot everybody else, but just not the person with the camera. Anyway, so this mindless nonsense goes on. So while this is all going on, Chuck, however, seems to be curb crawling because he's in his truck, and the truck is another character we need to talk about in a little
How
while.
many shots do we get of that, Matt? Of him in the truck and driving with his leather gloves on? Yeah, now, I love Chuck, but
for
please,
no reason.
The leather gloves, and you're thinking, really?
So he looks like he's curb crawling. He's just going into random bars. He goes into this bar it's a strip bar, isn't it? He goes into this strip bar where the strippers keep all their clothes on. Even though it's anyway, whatever. And the bouncer on the door takes an instant disliking to him for no apparent reason, because he just says he's just looking. It's like, well, that's what you do in a strip bar, I think. But anyway, so he tries to stop him, and he has a bottle of beer in his hand, the bouncer, and Chuck grabs his hand and crushes the bottle in his hand, and the bouncer falls down. I don't know why. Maybe got a cut in his hand. I don't know. Slipped on the beer coming out of the bottle. I don't know. But he falls down. Chuck walks through, and then he walks out again, goes into another bar where he finds his mate, who, again, indecipherable mate. We don't know who he is, what he's doing there. He just says...
He owes him, though. Don't forget, Matt, he owes him.
That's right. Yeah, he owes him and tells him and says Rostov or something.
From the past. Chuck will have saved him. Probably the guy that gave him the baby armadillo as a thank you or something. But he saved him. But this is the point here, Matt. That's 43 minutes into the film, a Chuck Norris movie, before you get the breaking glass with the hand. And I thought, now, I'll forgive loads of stuff if now in this titty bar we get some Chuck action and people flying. But you're right. He goes to another bar with some really dodgy
gringo moustaches.
Rican, Mexican. They're not sure. We're never sure what they are we?
No.
And these guys also take an instant dislike to him. And I think, right, we didn't get it at the last bar. We're going to get it at this bar. But I'll let you fill in the rest. All we get is the grenade action this time. We still don't get the fights. We don't get the bar action.
I think this made me laugh more than anything else during the film, because I was probably crying through most of it, or trying to stay awake. So he goes into this bar, another bar, and there's this guy who seems to be part of the crew. You don't really know where he is in the pecking order. You just know that he knows Rostov, because Chuck says, you know Rostov. That's how you know he knows Rostov, because Chuck says so. So this guy's gone upstairs with another one of these lovely ladies of the night, and he's about to get busy. And Chuck just strolls upstairs, walks in, kicks the door. One of the few times he makes a kick. Now, this is something else. I counted last night. I've rewatched it. He only throws 10 kicks for a karate champion throughout the entire film. We'll come back to that later. 5 of those are in the finale, but we'll come back to that later. So he opens the door, kicks the door open, and he has a go at this bloke who's had a go at this lady the night because she grabbed his hand. He's got a bandage on it. We don't know why he's got a bandage on it. We don't know if this is from a previous encounter somewhere that they just left on the editing floor, whatever. His hand hurts, so he pushes her down on the bed and he's having a go at her. Chuck when I say kicks in the door, he comes in from the bathroom. He doesn't come in through the front door. He comes in from the side. He's crept in somehow, waiting for him, and he stabs him through the thing in the hand. So the guy's screaming. He's stuck to the side of the dresser with his hand stuck there, and Chuck tells the woman to leave, so she runs off and goes and tells his mates. This big burly dude in a white vest comes up who looks quite intimidating. So Chuck kicks him and he falls backwards and he runs off. In the meantime, Chuck has a hand grenade, takes the pin out, puts the hand grenade in the guy's other hand. So he's got one hand stuck on the table, other hand's in here. Meantime, the guy in the white vest has come up with his mate in the red vest, who's even bigger, who's a bit more muscles, and he utters the famous line, "I'll hit you with so many rights, you'll be wishing for a left," which is probably the Chuckism of the film.
If you come back in here, I'm going to hit you with so many rights, you're going to beg for a left.
The only good line off the film. And for whatever reason, they see the hand grenade, and these two dudes leg it. They don't want to know. They're out the door. They're not going to fight. They're just going to run off. So they run outside. They then cut to them outside by their red Cadillac. They're standing outside muttering kind of, "Oh, if he didn't have a hand grenade, I'd get him." Anyway, so then cuts back into the house where Chuck goes to him. you're going to have to sort this dilemma out. I'm off, but you tell Rostov if you survive that I'm coming for him. It was me. I mean, he doesn't tell him his name. I just assume he knows who he is. Everybody must know who he is. But anyway, so off he goes. And the dude's standing there going, if I let, I can't take the hand grenade out of my hand because it's stabbed here. So what does he do? He throws the hand grenade out the window and then just takes the knife out. I mean, it's the most ridiculous moment. But the funny part is the hand grenade falls in the guy's Cadillac outside, blows that up. And the guy who's being threatened is more angry about the car blowing up than he is the fact that, his mate's got a knife through his hand and Chuck Norris had left him to die. The most ridiculous but very, very funny sequence as far as I'm concerned. So anyway, so then this guy then goes off to Rostov and says, oh, it's Matt. He's come to, and before he even finished the sentence, Rostov shoots him. So he might as well just die with a hand grenade. Probably would have been less painful.
But it's another opportunity for the psychic to say, why are we so worried about Hunter? And another opportunity for us to say, you don't know. We always, they keep sledgehammering him every chance they get that he's only one man, and Rostov looking at him like he's mad. He's not only one man, it's Chuck. But the point of that whole sequence from like 43 minutes to 55 minutes, you're thinking that is the perfect opportunity for what you expect from a Chuck movie. I was expecting bodies out of windows, people.
Yeah, Chuck to destroy the bar.
And it never happens. Nothing happens. And this is the problem. It's like random sequences because we get, as you said, that random sequence. The guy promises Rostov. He hasn't told him anything. He doesn't know anything to tell, but Rostov doesn't believe him, so he shoots him. We get the dialogue again, and which we'll have repeated umpteen times about why are you so worried about this guy? He can't stop us. There's thousands of us. It's only him. And Rostov going, I will never be able to sleep till I know he's dead, until I know our invasion will be safe. And then we cut to the most random, but probably the most famous sequence in the film, and the one that the trailers built so heavily on, is a shopping mall sequence that has become infamous now with his big truck and the, we get the build again. The build up to Chuck's introductions each time are always like we have the villains because he drops his shopping bag. Do you remember when the family's following him? You dropped your bag.
Again, it's like Keystone Cop stuff, isn't it? I mean, this dude who looks seriously suspect, who's carrying a bag, leaves it by the side of a counter, and this woman says to her husband, look, he's left his bag. So he then chases him through the shop going, you've forgotten your bag. And then this guy's legging it through the shop, being pursued by security.
Because he runs off like Forrest Gump, doesn't he?
Yeah. I mean,
if you were just a normal shopper,
surely you would
how far would you chase him?
Yeah. So anyway, so this ends up in the main strip of the mall. And then there's some of the terrorists, again, multinational terrorists. Some of them look American. Some of them they pull out guns from somewhere. More of their plastic Uzi, the old 1920s kind of ridiculous set of guns. Anyway, they start shooting up the mall. Now, as this happens, the 80s, dun-dun-dun, music starts, and in comes Chuck in his indestructible Jeep.
Chuck's entrance, again, I'm trying to get context here. It probably for the times you thought it was great, but for those of us, that was every episode of the A-Team, wasn't it? The truck going through some sort of wall or some contraction that Mr. T had built. And I mean, I watched it again now, and the dramatic impact of seeing all that glass shatter and the big truck and Chuck, it was just like, really? And again, this is Mr. All-American that doesn't even check before he goes through those windows who's behind it. Yeah. He knows there's terrorists in there, and that's good enough for him. Chuck has got
some very, very skilled driving ability because he drives into the mall, through the walls, through the glass windows, through stores, does all this stuff, doesn't hit one single civilian. There are loads of them. Doesn't hit one of them. Hits every single terrorist you can find, but does not. And all that happens to the truck, the super indestructible truck, is he loses the left-hand side light. Driver side light. I must say that about the exploding bag. The exploding bag ends up in the main hallway where it does explode, and all it does is burn. It sort of goes boom, and there's just a few Christmas tree and bits of tinsel on fire. That's it. I mean, it's the most pathetic explosion, considering that they use a few shotguns earlier in the film and a couple of rocket launchers, and it looks like Armageddon on a wooden shack. So Chuck is driving. It's like it's like the sort of test sequence for the Blues Brothers, because the Blues Brothers did it so much better. If you haven't seen the Blues Brothers, go and watch that. That is how you destroy a mall, with driving through it. So Chuck has then done that, and then he drives off again. Oh, and goes out to the front. That's right, because they grab this woman in another absolutely ridiculous sequence that makes no sense whatsoever. So there is two women outside of their mate.
Yeah,
he grabs one by the hair, and he's holding her through the window while driving like this. Now, as Chuck pursues them, and he's got the photographer, is it? At this point,
the reporter.
She's in the car. I don't know why she's there.
To be there.
Yeah, she had to be there. And and the woman's mate is there. That's right. No, it's just the photographer, isn't it? They're in this, so they're in the Jeep chasing along, trying to get this guy is holding this woman by the hair. It then cuts to a sequence where you see his arm round her back like that, but it's quite clearly a harness, because the arm is like square and it's got like this. You know, like when you used to draw when you were little, you used to draw the like bubbly hand. It's like that. It's quite clearly a harness around her to hold her onto the side of the van, because no one can hold anybody that tight to a van because she doesn't move. She's absolutely like solid against the side of the van. There's no way, because of, he would have pulled her hair out round the first corner. Anyway, so you see all this sequence, and again, utterly ridiculous. They're leaning, she's leaning, the photographer's leaning across trying to grab her, and they're swaying around, and eventually they manage to pull the girl free, and she ends up in the back of the car, nearly falls off the back of the car. Now, anyone being sensible driving would have put the brake on. So then the bad guy goes flying off into the nearest wall or whatever, and the woman who's on the back would have ended up in the car. Not Chuck, puts his foot down. So she nearly falls off the back into the road and would have died. So the whole rescue would have been pointless. They then chase around a bit, and then the van ends up with a hand grenade in it that I think Chuck throws in there. If I'm right, if I remember right. I only watched this last night. I can't really remember the detail. And the car goes off and explodes, and Chuck says something Chucky, and then off they go. And this girl never to be seen again, whether she's reunited with her mates. You don't see where he drops off the press girl. And then we cut to another random scene, which is basically...
That's the thing, Matt. The press girl, again, when you look at it in context again and look at the bigger picture, she always turns up and disappears. It's like continuity just wasn't something they thought of, that storyboarding wasn't something they thought of. It's just like, we'll have her at that mall. We never get a sense of geography of where she's from, where they're from, where the malls are, where they're going. And as you said, the next random scene is another total lift from Dirty Harry. It's the bus. They even have the call to sing Row, Row, Row Your Boat, just like they did in Dirty Harry. And as you and I talked about, the most unforgivable bit of this whole movie, and there's lots that it's hard to forgive, is the way that Chuck...
That's what they should have called the film. Could have been like a prequel to Hard to Kill, Hard to Forgive.
Is how Chuck defies the principles of time and physics when the villains put the bomb on the side of the bus and drive off at 100 miles an hour. Chuck just happens to be on that freeway, the same freeway. We never know. Matt, where is he going? We know he's looking for Rostov. He got no clues from the guy who tried to blow up with the grenade. He gets no clues from the reporter because she hasn't got a clue, full stop.
He
just seems to be randomly driving around these highways. But being Chuck, he's also so lucky. He's just driving down this highway where another set of terrorists pop a bomb on a bus and then shoot off. And Matt,
it's not even on the... It's literally stuck to the side of the bus.
Yeah.
It's a big yellow bus with a big grey box on it. Not even subtle. And the bus drives off. So Chuck hasn't even seen the bus at this point. So the bus is off down the road somewhere.
And it's got a timer on it.
There's a bomb on the
how long we've got left.
Yeah. And Chuck knows there's a bomb on the bus because he suddenly speeds up. Nobody tells him, or they might have done, but that scene wasn't left in.
The guys that planted the bomb, they've shut off, haven't they? They're going 400 miles an hour. No. They've decided to stop and have a picnic, have a cigarette, congratulate themselves on each other, because that is the only way that Chuck then, after taking the bomb off the bus, catches up with them in about 3-4 seconds. Because don't forget, the 30-second timer is ticking down. And Chuck takes it off the bus, flies forward, and lo and behold, they're only 300 yards up the motorway.
Yeah.
And it gives him the opportunity to lob it back and go, this is yours, I believe, or you've forgotten this, and then drive off. And, what you should have had in that scene, again, I'm thinking Mel Brooks here, is the guys, they've opened the picnic basket, they're sharing the sandwiches, they're congratulating each other, because in reality, they should be another 30, 40 miles up the road by now, the speed they were going. And amazingly, Chuck manages to get his timing so right that there's like 2 seconds left before he puts it in there and then drives off, and then he
gets off to a safe distance before it goes off in these
exactly, Matt. And this brings me to the biggest problem I had with Invasion USA. Look at the amount of time Chuck is actually really in it.
Yeah.
Huge swathes of this movie deal with Richard Lynch and the villains, and a lot of the budget is on the explosive damage that they do, and all the, people must go, to give you the thought that this is a big budget movie with all the explosions. But Chuck isn't there. We never see the through line that shows how he gets from A to B, how he's tracking them, how he's so incredible at his job. And to me, it was like, as I think I said to you before, it's like Halloween or Friday the 13th. They almost use him like a Jason figure, where he just suddenly turns up. And unlike the mute antagonist in that one, says his expected Chuck Norris, kills someone and disappears again. He spends the whole time just appearing, disappearing, and after killing someone. And to me, that's why it's one of the most least satisfying canon entries. And Chuck entries is, we're given no rationale for it. He finds the bus, and then we lead to the big finale where they're going to blow up a church and start World War III within America itself. Americans versus
it's in
America.
the middle of a city, isn't it? This
yes,
whole...
yeah, they're in the big city, probably Miami. I don't know now, but
we don't care at this point, to be quite
and
honest.
You've got the wonderful Laurel and Hardy moment with the guys that have set the bomb giggling in the church. We've gone inside the church just to show you how pious and American pie these people are in the church. And then we cut back outside to all the, what uniform have I got on today? Am I from the Wanderers, the Warriors?
Rent a costume.
Or am I from Van Damme Cyborg, or am I from Boogaloo, Electric Boogaloo with my headband? And they're giggling away as they put the fuses together, and he pushes it down just like in the Roadrunner, and nothing. So they all start cursing and swearing in all these different languages. He does it again, and then above them is Jason. No, sorry, it's Chuck.
Go on.
Didn't work, huh? Now it will.
It's just
the other
Chuck.
funny part about this sequence, because this is the big finale. So after that happens, now you see loads of troop, the National Guard coming in their tanks, and you've got all the renter guys who seem to be in every single block of the. So there's some here, and they cut to some that are over here, but it's actually the same lot that are over there, but just turn the hat sideways or something to make them look different. They plant 3 bombs in vans, which is the same van. It's the same footage, but they try and make it look like it's a different van in a different position. It's one clip. They reuse the same clip 3 times. The same with as all the soldiers approach. It's the same clip over and over again, because clearly they didn't have a lot of budget for this. So they're trying to make it look a bit, a bit more, grandiose, I suppose. And now while this is going on, in the building is Richard Lynch, who is still complaining about Chuck Norris.
Yeah, we've got the army there, we've got the National Guard,
nothing to do with the fact if Rostov had just not bothered with him and just got on with it, he probably would have completed the mission, because Chuck didn't want anything to do with it in the first place. So anyway, minor issue. So they're running around in a building while all the others are now fighting each other, all firing bullets that are not killing anyone. And the renter costume guys occasionally are getting caught, and it's the same crowd. Then you cut to another scene where it's the same crowd doing something different.
Watch the renter costume guys carefully. The way they shoot, even if they're the guys 4 rows back, when you watch them running forward and firing, their arms are going from left to right, side to side. They're killing as many of each other as they are the soldiers. It's so ridiculous they pile forward. And it's just random. And you're thinking, really? You know?
Yeah, it's by this point you've lost all sense of reality. So we'll ignore all that going because that all gets thwarted very quickly. What happens is upstairs in the building. So upstairs in the building, you've got Richard Lynch, so Rostov, and Chuck Norris's character tracing each other around the building. Chuck's got his double Uzis, which he shoots everywhere, kills a few minor villains, gets rid of them, and then he's down to a knife. And then they're running around the building. I mean, Chuck kicks this guy 5 times in the finale over a desk. 5 times. I mean, he's kicked a few more people. It equates to 10 kicks during the film. This guy was supposedly a all karate champion, multi-time all karate champion. So you think there'd be a bit more boom, boom, you know. No. 5 kicks, few punches, and then he starts lobbing knives and rocket launches into helicopters and stuff. Nothing. I mean, the finale is such an anticlimax. I mean, the film's an anticlimax, but even this is an anticlimax.
But Matt, it's the geography of the rooms as well. It's the geography of the choreography. It's all just, again, those Edward Scissorhand cuts. The guys all run off. What made them think that we're against Hunter? He's still here. Thousands have tried to kill him. I know. Let's split up into little groups of no more than 3 and attack him that way. Richard Lynch has gone in there with about 30 blokes. Why not get all our guns together and shoot the crap out? No, we'll all split up. We'll make the geography unrecognizable because we're all going into all these different rooms and offices. And Chuck wanders down this one corridor and into this office or that office. The geography, the choreography is all over the place. And just to allow the banality of 2 or 3 guys at a time popping up and then Chuck disposing of them. And it's just so lazy. It's like Zito's bored. It's like Chuck's bored. And then we go back to the love of bazookas because Chuck finally catches up with Richard Lynch, doesn't he? And we finally get all his frustration about not being allowed to fight earlier taken out on Richard Lynch. And then when we're waiting for the killer blow, he disappears. Now, whether it's the Scissorhand editing or what, but he's gone, allowing Lynch to pick up the bazooka again. But why has he gone? Because he's going to get his own bazooka, because somewhere it was written that what a great way to finish the film. Instead of the 6-gun shootout, you're going to have a bazooka shootout.
It's time.
Bazooka off.
Yeah, bazooka off. Yeah, that was his sidekick, wasn't it? That was the guy that kept telling him, he's only one man. He's only one man. Bazooka off. Bazooka. You know nothing. But they have the bazooka off so they can blow him out this window. And by then, Matt, you're just like, oh my God, it's like, I hope this is the end now. But no, we still get a good few recreated shots for about the 5th, 6th or 7th time of the army just about mopping up the other multi-costume guys with the 3rd or 4th edit of the same scene, you know.
And then just to really rub salt in the wound, we have Melissa Prophet being angry and mad at everybody again as Chuck Norris just strolls through the room. Doesn't even say much. He just walks through the room.
This is the problem, Matt. Throughout everything, even the big action scenes, you mentioned the scene where they kidnap the woman and they're driving alongside and they're telling her to jump. There's no chemistry between Chuck and the reporter. There's no attempt to build a rapport. There's no attempt to build a relationship. There's no in any of it. There's no tension. You look at that chase scene, and then you think of the immortal truck scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark with Harrison Ford trying to get to them on the front of the truck and the thing.
Yeah.
You are riveted. You're biting your nails. At no point in Invasion USA, despite all the explosions, despite there's so much being blown up, despite so many people, is there ever any tension? Is there any ever time we think, oh my God, this is like, and that's what is so disappointing about it. At the end, someone lit the fuse paper, it gets to the firework, and then Clint Eastwood, as the man with no name, just takes the fuse out and puts it under his boot and says, it's not going to happen, people. There's no tension. There's no fear. There's no excitement, no chemistry. And Chuck walks through it like one of the classic horror monsters that says, right, Chuck, here's your lines, go and kill the guys and say this. And it was like they're saying, this is the 80s, this is what they expect. We've got the formula, we just stick with it. But Matt,
I think its single biggest failing is
Succession. And
the film's single biggest failing is Chuck Norris. The man has no charisma throughout the entire film. He's just, he's trying to be edgy, like you said, like the Clint Eastwood kind of edgy thing. Doesn't work. He wasn't that kind. He is not that kind of an actor. He's a bit more kind of, he found great success in Texas Walker Ranger. Texas Ranger, even. He found great success in that, and I think because they were short episodes, it was a bit A-teamy, like we've said. He had guest stars turning up in it. So at one point, during the height of his popularity, Bret Hart from the WWF, or WWE as it's now known, the Hitman Bret Hart is a reoccurring character in it. So they built, and I think that's where Chuck really found his feet, because most of his films
he also needs a strong motif to pin around him. Like if you look at his most successful franchises, it's missing in action because of Braddock and the whole idea of going back for the boys, living, and you accept the idea that this man is so devoted to saving his comrades in the past and in the future, and then you get the flashback to when he was a prisoner as himself in Missing in Action 2. And then if you look at the Delta Force, the original one with Lee Marvin, just a very solid hostage escape movie, and then they carry his character on. When you put Chuck in the right vehicle, where they've tried to build some semblance of a strong plot around it and what he's doing. Code of Silence, which I think was, if I'm right, was originally written as a Dirty Harry spin-off, if I'm right.
Okay.
They just changed it from Harry Callahan to Eddie Cusack.
Yeah.
But I think it was originally written as a Dirty Harry vehicle. And that just shows you, obviously, the quality of the script they were working with as well. Within the right framework, I feel that Chuck, like Van Damme, can do the business. But both of them, take them out of that framework and put them in a different type of movie, and you see their failings are glaring. And Invasion USA is one of those. I still think you and I will probably get huge flack from people that are still going, no, Invasion USA, one of the greatest movies of the 80s. Trust me, it's
not. You go back and look at it, and you're like we said at the beginning, you're remembering the poster. You're not remembering the film. Like you're saying, Code of Silence. He sandwiched Invasion USA between Code of Silence and the Delta Force. It's chalk and cheese. Code of Silence was amazing. Invasion USA, as we're getting to here, is just shockingly bad. It really has no redeeming features. It's not even laughably bad. It's just bad. And then he did Delta Force, which I would argue and say is probably his best film. I love Delta Force. Delta Force is one of those ones that we should visit at some point when we're doing these. As a mirror image of what this is, but the Delta Force wasn't just carried by Chuck. He had Lee Marvin there. He had Steve James with him. He had a good, solid cast around him, making him look good. And the film, like I said, the film is great. It's based on various hostage crises of the time and stuff. And it was great. They wanted to do Delta Force 2, but unfortunately Lee Marvin died just before they were going to do it. So it never really. Well, I think they did do a Delta Force 2, but it didn't have them in it. And there's a whole history of this. So after Delta Force, he did Firewalker, which was a Indiana Jones ripoff with Lou Gossett Jr., which again is terrible, but Lou Gossett Jr. makes it bearable. And then he goes into Missing Action 3 and Hero and Terror, which again are quite good films. He just seemed, for me, Chuck is, he's the even-numbered Star Trek films. He's, they're not great. The odd-numbered Star Trek films. The even ones are meant to be the ones that everybody likes most. The odd ones like Spock and Star Trek, the slow motion picture, and the ones people don't. Anyway. So people are probably wondering why we're not sort of expounding like we usually do. It's because there's nothing to work with. This film is it's very different to how you remember it. I'm fairly certain, because I really struggled with this. I watched it a couple of times. We've bounced through it very quickly to what we usually do. And I think we have to give it a cheese-o-meter rating because that's what we're here to do. So I've got my idea of what I'm giving it, but I'd like to hear yours first. I'm going to fly here. So come on, Malcolm, give me a rating.
I thought maybe we'd hit an nadir with Hard to Kill. So I can't give it higher than Hard to Kill because it actually makes Hard to Kill look like a mini masterpiece. So I'm afraid, and as I said, unlike yourself, I have a huge amount of time for Chuck, and there's a good number of his movies in my collection that I can rewatch and go, like what you're doing here. But this one in my collection is going back to the charity shop with a 3 cheese-o-meter rating.
I completely agree. I was going to give it a 2, but I think that's overly harsh because I know there are worse films out there. I think this only gets the extra star for the fact that, if we didn't give it anything higher than a 2, the truck would probably turn up in his pickup truck with his black leather glove on and try and run us over. So yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. I think this is a 3. This is, this sadly is one of these films. Partly why we created Get to the Chedda was, to look back at these films and see, do they stand up today? Well, quite resoundingly, this does not stand up. It never really stood up in the first place, but the 80s, you just went. So yes, no, a 3 for this. The only other interesting thing I'll add to this is that this came out in the same year as Commando. So it never stood a chance, let's be honest. I mean, literally the greatest and the worst action hero films came out in the same year, months apart. So if I were you, go and check out Commando and then go and watch I'll Get to the Chedda on Commando. If you're feeling quite sadistic, feel free, go and watch Invasion USA, but I would thoroughly not recommend it. I mean, myself, if you go to our local charity shops, you'll probably find a couple of copies where I've got it on Blu-ray. I think mine might go on eBay, but no. I think this is
not his finest moment by any stretch of the imagination. And I think you see certain scenes in there where Chuck knows it. And I think I've read, or it might become just folklore now, that it certainly isn't one of Chuck's favorites either. And I can probably understand the logic behind that. Because, as I said, like Van Damme, you give him the right vehicle and he will deliver to a good level that we expect from Cannon. Or when don't forget, because a lot of what we're talking about now in the 80s were what we called the direct-to-video, the DTV. And Chuck and Jean-Claude were the kings of DTV, and rightly so, because they weren't given the budgets, well, Van Damme was briefly, of your Stallones and your Schwarzeneggers. With that next level down budget, for the home viewers, they delivered on a regular basis. It's just that this time, Chuck sadly delivered a stinker. And on revisiting it, I just thought, my God, it just shows you how time distorts the memory. And I agree with you 100%, Matt. I too, like everyone else, bought the imagery and the trailer and remembered that. Watch the trailer, watch the imagery, and you're thinking you're in for Chuck's finest, and it certainly isn't. But I think you've got an idea that should cheer us all up for our next viewing.
Well, yes, it's my turn to choose, and for the next one, and I think you'll quite like this one because I believe this is one of your favourite films, or one of your favourite films of the year, should I say? So I think after the debacle that was Invasion USA, we need a decent pick-me-up. So I'm going for Michael Dudikoff's opus, American Ninja.
The deadliest art of the Orient is now in the hands of an American Ninja.
If you want to join us ahead of the next one, which will be some point in the next few weeks when we can get our diaries together, because we're both very busy people these days, you can actually find it on Amazon Prime, on Prime Video, on their MGM channel, which they now own. So who knows, might go free, but it is on there. In fact, you've got all of the first 3 or 4 of the American Ninjas, but only bother with the first one, because that's the one we're going to be talking about next time, which will be American Ninja. So there you had it. We had Invasion USA. We're glad the invasion is now over, and we can now move on to something which I think we'll probably enjoy a bit more next time. So join with us next time. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel down here. Don't forget to watch the previous Get to the Cheddas. We will see you next time. Look after yourselves and see you soon.